Yeah. No, no. Well, I still believe that, but takes two to tango, right? But no, I do. I mean, I believe it would be a massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens.
Remember when Trudeau got caught mocking Trump with Macron and Trump left the NATO summit early? Well, Mark Carney just made the exact same blunder after meeting with Trump, and the consequences could be worse this time. In this video, I'll show you the uncomfortable post-meeting press conference where Carney appears to snub Trump, analyze what this means for Canada's relationship with our biggest trading partner, and reveal the potential conflicts of interest lurking behind this diplomatic disaster. Politicians never learn, do they? Remember when Justin Trudeau thought he could mock Donald Trump and get away with it?
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity is in the partnership. And well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now. Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
That entire NATO summit fiasco turned into a complete disaster for Canada, and we're still dealing with the fallout today. Back in December 2019, at the NATO summit in London, our brilliant Prime Minister got caught on a hot mic gossiping about Trump like he was back in high school. There he was, standing in a little circle with Emmanuel Macron, Boris Johnson, and other world leaders, laughing about how Trump's team jaws dropped to the floor during a press conference. Trudeau thought he was being so clever, showing off for his European buddies while trash-talking the leader of our most important ally and trading partner. What did he think would happen? Trump, who watches everything, saw the footage almost immediately. The president cut his NATO visit short and called Trudeau two-faced in front of the international press. You could practically feel the temperature drop in Canada-US relations overnight. Trudeau tried to backpedal later, claiming he was just concerned about Trump's unexpected announcement about the next G7 location. Right. Because that's definitely what causes politicians to snicker behind their hands like teenagers. The diplomatic fallout wasn't just embarrassment, it hit regular Canadians in their wallets. The USMCA trade negotiations, already tense, suddenly faced new obstacles. Within months, Trump slapped tariffs on Canadian aluminum, directly impacting thousands of Canadian jobs. Every time Canadian manufacturers tried to recover, the relationship kept hitting new roadblocks. While politicians played their petty games, Canadian businesses paid the price. Trudeau's behavior showed a complete failure to understand Trump's personality and negotiation style. Trump values loyalty and public respect above almost everything else. He responds to disrespect with immediate, often disproportionate retaliation. This isn't complicated psychology. It's been Trump's consistent pattern for decades in business and politics. Yet Trudeau acted shocked when his little NATO gossip session triggered an economic response. What did he expect? The real victims weren't politicians with their six-figure salaries and pension plans. Regular Canadians suffered through delayed exports, higher prices on American goods, and lost business opportunities. Manufacturing plants in Quebec and Ontario felt the squeeze from aluminum tariffs. Small businesses waiting on the USMCA clarity couldn't plan their futures. Farmers faced uncertainty about market access, all because our Prime Minister couldn't resist showing off for his European friends. Even with Biden in office, Canada-US relations never fully recovered. The trust was broken. American negotiators became more demanding, knowing Canadian leadership had shown weakness. The Buy American provisions pushed by the Biden administration have hurt Canadian companies trying to access U.S. government contracts. The Keystone XL pipeline cancellation cost thousands of Canadian jobs. These ongoing challenges trace back to the moment our credibility took a hit on the international stage. Now Canada finds itself in an even more vulnerable position. Our economy is fragile, with housing costs spiraling out of control and inflation hitting everyday Canadians hard. Our resource sector faces constant regulatory hurdles while American competitors race ahead. Our military is underfunded and under-equipped. And who do we depend on for trade, defense, and economic stability? The very neighbor whose leader Trudeau thought it was smart to mock. With Trump likely returning to power, maintaining positive relations with the U.S. isn't just important. It's essential for our national survival. Every Canadian job connected to exports, every business that relies on American customers, every community near the border depends on stable cross-border relations. Trudeau's NATO summit mistake became the perfect example of what not to do in international diplomacy, taught in political science classes as a case study in self-destructive behavior. You'd think other liberal politicians would have learned from this diplomatic disaster. You'd think they'd understand that putting personal smugness ahead of national interest is a terrible strategy. You'd think they'd recognize that whatever your personal feelings about Trump, antagonizing him publicly only hurts Canadians. But no, Mark Carney has stepped into the exact same diplomatic minefield, but with potentially worse timing and consequences. Just when Canada can least afford another trade dispute, just when our economy is teetering on recession, just when Trump is positioned to return to power with a vendetta list, Carney decides to repeat Trudeau's biggest foreign policy blunder. The arrogance is astounding, and ordinary Canadians will once again pay the price. Let's talk about Mark Carney's performance after meeting Trump. Did you see that press conference? The man looked like he'd rather be anywhere else on Earth. His body language screamed discomfort. Shifting weight, tight smile, eyes darting around. This wasn't a man who had just had a productive meeting with a former and potentially future president. This was a man trying to navigate a minefield of his own making. Carney's answers were classic political evasion, but with an extra layer of smugness that's become the liberal trademark. When discussing the border issue, something Trump feels strongly about, Carney made sure to throw in that little dig. I've been careful always to distinguish between wish and reality. Translation: Trump lives in a fantasy world, and I'm the smart one here. Did he think Trump wouldn't hear about these comments? Did he think Trump's team doesn't monitor everything said about their boss? Meanwhile, the White House released their own video of the meeting that painted a completely different picture: cordial, respectful, productive. Two totally different narratives. One meeting, two stories. Whose version do you think Trump believes? Whose version will matter if Trump returns to office and remembers the Canadian who subtly mocked him to score political points back home? But Carney's arrogance with Trump is just one part of this story. Let's not forget who Mark Carney actually is, the chair of Brookfield Asset Management. While he was supposedly just an advisor to the Liberal Party, his company Brookfield somehow landed a sweet $157 million contract for military relocations. What a coincidence. Brookfield Global Relocation Services getting this massive government deal, while their chairman happens to be besties with Trudeau. The contract itself has been a disaster. Errors, delays, inefficiencies, damaged morale, missed deadlines, confusion. This is what Canadian military families have endured while Carney's company cashes government checks. But hey, at least Mark got paid, right? What makes this even more outrageous is that Carney was actively advising the Liberal Party while his company was benefiting from these government contracts. This isn't just a conflict of interest. It's a textbook example of the insider dealing that the Liberals swore they'd eliminate. Remember when Trudeau campaigned on transparency and accountability? That was apparently just another empty promise. When journalists dare to question Carney about these conflicts, his response is pure entitlement. "I'm complying with the rules," he snaps, as if following the bare minimum legal requirements deserves applause. It's the same dismissive attitude we see when he subtly mocks Trump. A pattern of believing he's above accountability, above criticism, above the concerns of regular Canadians. This diplomatic blunder couldn't come at a worse time for Canada. Our economy is hanging by a thread. Inflation is crushing families. Housing costs are through the roof. And our largest trading partner is potentially returning a president who values loyalty and punishes disrespect. Carney just painted a target on Canada's back for what? To look clever at a press conference? This leaves us with two possible explanations for Carney's behavior. Either he's politically naive to an extent that's almost impossible to believe for a former Bank of Canada governor, or he's deliberately sabotaging Canada-US relations for personal gain. Neither option inspires confidence. A man eyeing the Liberal leadership should understand basic diplomacy. Don't mock the leader of your most important ally, especially one known for taking things personally. The timing of this is even more suspicious given Carney's obvious political ambitions. Is he trying to position himself as the anti-Trump candidate for the next Liberal leadership race? Is he willing to risk Canadian jobs and economic stability to advance his personal career? It certainly looks that way. Carney's entire approach reflects the same entitled attitude we've seen from Trudeau for 9 years, a belief that clever words and smug superiority matter more than actual results for Canadians. The same attitude that led Trudeau to mock Trump at NATO is now being repeated by his potential successor. Different banker, same playbook. But what does this mean for ordinary Canadians who will bear the brunt of any diplomatic fallout? When Trump potentially slaps new tariffs on Canadian goods, It won't be Carney losing sleep. When manufacturing plants close because they've lost access to the American market, it won't be Carney standing in the unemployment line. When agricultural exports sit rotting at the border, it won't be Carney's family budget taking the hit. Look at what we're seeing here. Mark Carney steps out of a meeting with Trump and immediately starts the same smug posturing that got Canada in trouble before. 9 years of liberal leadership, and they still haven't figured out that playing politics with our most important trading relationship hurts real Canadians. Are you tired of watching these elites gamble with your economic future? Millions of Canadians are waking up to this political theater. When tariffs hit, when factories close, when exports get blocked at the border, it won't be Carney or Trudeau feeling the pain. It'll be regular Canadian workers, farmers, and small business owners paying for their diplomatic failures.